Damn, I can't even play this game until I have another person inside of this pad for this matchmaking system. Oh my god, what am I gonna do about this? Oh wait, I see a player. Hey you, bro, over there.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm talking to you, bro. Come over here. I need another person so that we can actually play this game. All right, we got 2 out of 2 players, so now let's see. Oh, all right, we're going into the next game. Ooh, let's see what this game is about to be like. What? Am I in hell right now? Bro, this is kind of weird. Is this what Roblox games be like nowadays? Oh my goodness, this is quite an interesting place both of us landed into. Alright, but what you just saw was a teleportation from the main game that we were just playing on to this other alternative game that's really strange, but that is essentially what happened. We got into a teleport matchmaking system, and then we got teleported to another place within the same exact game. And this is using a feature called Teleport Service that essentially allows us to teleport players between places within the same game and do other cool neat features with it, like sending data over to other servers and joining specific players into specific servers and things like that. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how Teleport Service works and how you can implement it inside of Roblox Studio. But let me try and explain more of Teleport Service before we get into implementing. So let's go straight into that. All right, let's think about this for a minute. I'm going to try and explain the concept of teleport service so that we can get a better idea of how this works and why it's important for us to know how to use this inside of Roblox Studio. So with the example that I showed you in the beginning of this video, we had a matchmaking system over there, and once we had enough players, we were teleported to a different place within the same game that had its own contents that was not available inside of this main game right here. And this is using the ability that we have as developers to teleport players into a different place within the same game. And so the way I want you to think about this is, if I were to open up Explorer, we have everything inside of here that comprises of a game with its own properties and things like that. So what you're seeing right now is the main game. But if we were to teleport to a different place, then this game would basically be reset back to its defaults, and we can add whatever we want inside of this game that's going to be different from this main game. And so that's how I want you to think about this in terms of different places within the same game. And so now I want to show you what this looks like conceptually. So what we have going on here is the game itself. And this game can be comprised of multiple different places attached to the same game. So as we've been following along through this advanced scripting tutorial guide, we've basically just been having one place be connected to the game. And so with the ability of Teleport Service, we can create as many places as we want attached to the game itself. So what I want you to understand is there can only be one game, but there can be multiple games attached to the same game if we want to teleport players between each of these places. And so now I want you to understand how creating servers work inside of this structure. So how do servers work? When players join into the game, we need to be able to create a server for them to be able to join into this game, as you probably know. So what Roblox decides to do is create a public server that's open to anybody who joins into the game to then be thrown into this public server, as long as there's enough players that don't reach max capacity or whatever. So the players, once they join into the game, they join into the main place. Now, if let's say we wanted to have the players join into another place, like if we were to teleport them to this second place, we need Roblox to create another public server so that these players can be teleported over to this server inside of the second place. So we're going to use Teleport Service to essentially move the players from this game, or from this place, into this place over here. And if let's say we teleported everybody, then this is just going to be an empty server, and Roblox can just remove this public server because we don't need it anymore. And so this is essentially how server hopping or server teleportation works inside of Roblox Studio within different places. And we can basically just do the same thing with Place 3 as well. If we created a public server, then we can send the players over to this place, and you kind of get the idea at this point. So that is how server teleportation works. But what makes this interesting is that we can have different server types for players to teleport into this game. So another type of server that's interesting to know about is reserved servers. And with the name reserved servers, basically what this is if we, let's say, had players back from the main place like this, if we wanted to teleport them to an exclusive server inside of this place so that if future players came into the main game and wanted to teleport to this place, then they would not be able to be joining inside of this reserved server, because this is only exclusive to the players that were sent over to this place from the beginning. So if we sent the players over to this reserved server, then no players up until this point, like if let's say we had more players here, they cannot join this server because this is a reserved server. They can only go to the public server that is created for them inside of Place 2, or if we created a new reserved server for these players to play inside of the game. I hope this is making sense to you. This is basically the idea of how teleportation works inside of a game within different places. There can also be other things like sending data over between different places, but I'm going to go more into detail of what this entails later on inside of the video, and that is essentially the basic structure of this. Now, with teleport service, you can even teleport to third-party games that are not included within your game itself. Like, let's say we had another game here with Adopt Me, or another game with Pet Simulator X, then we can send the player from our game to that like alternative third-party game as well with teleport service. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to resort to just teleporting between different places within the same game that we own. So I hope this has made sense to you, and with that being said, let's go ahead and get straight into implementing teleport service inside of Roblox Studio. Now that we understand it, let's implement teleport service inside of Roblox Studio. Now, as I explained earlier, we need to be able to have multiple places within the game so that we can teleport these players between these places. Because by default, when you create a game on Roblox, there's only one place attached to it, which is just this main game right here. But now we have the ability to create multiple places that connect to the exact same game. And the way we do that is by going up to View, and we're going to be clicking on Asset Manager over here. And there's going to be a bunch of these folders here that we can create as assets to be used inside of our game. And the first one on the list is Places. So we're going to double click on this, and there should be a list of all the games or all the places that we have contained within this game. So what we're going to do is create a place within this game right here. So we're going to simply right click on this, and we're going to hit add new place like this. And so Roblox is going to generate a new place for us that's now attached to this game that we're playing. So if we double click on it, then what should happen is Roblox Studio is going to open up a new window that's going to be reserved exclusively or not exclusively, but specifically for this game that we are creating. So I'm just going to let Roblox Studio load this up really quick so that we can be connected into this new game. And so now, as you can see, once we are loaded in, we have a fresh base plate to work with. And if we go to places, we can still see that these places are connected with each other. Just ignore this one, test place 1 for now. Just pretend that there's two places here. So one for the main game and one for the place that we just created. So this name for this place is kind of weird. So what I'm going to do is right click on it and hit rename. So we're going to call this place 2 just to keep it simple. So now we have place 2 and the main game. So we can actually just rename this to main game just to make it simpler. So we have the main game and place 2. So that should be what we are working with as of right now. Okay, and that's pretty much all it takes to create the second place within the same game. So now what we're gonna do is teleport the player to this place through script. All right, so I'm back into the main game, and here's what we're gonna do. We're going to go on the right side of server script service. We're going to hit the plus sign, and we're going to insert a script. So the first thing we're going to do is make reference to the service that we're going to be using, which is of course teleport service. So we're going to say local teleport service equals game:get service, open and close parentheses, teleport service like this. Now, there's two pieces of information that we need in order to teleport the player into this place. So the first one is specifying exactly which place that we want to teleport the players to, given their place ID. So what we're going to do is go to our asset manager for place 2. We're going to right click on it, and we're going to hit copy ID to clipboard. So we're going to click that, and then we're going to create a variable so that we know that this is the ID that we need. So we're going to say local place ID equals, and then we're just going to paste the ID like this. And so now that we have the place ID, we need to specify the player that's going to be teleported, or players in this case. And an easy way we can do this is by making a player added event so that as soon as the player joins into the main game, they're going to be teleported to the second place right away. So what we're going to do is drop 2 lines and say game.players.player added connect function open and close parentheses. We're going to pass in the player argument and then we're going to hit enter. So what we're going to do is now say teleport service teleport async open and close parentheses. And we're going to pass in the place ID. And we're also going to pass in the players that are going to be teleported. So in this case, we're going to say player. Now, there is something you have to be careful about this. This is the first thing people get tripped up about, and that is this takes in a table of players, not just one player. We're not just passing in one instance of the player to be teleported. We need to pass in a table, and so what we need to do is wrap this player in curly brackets to indicate that this is a table with one player inside of it. And so this is a common thing people get tripped up about, and you need to make sure that you have this taken care of. Okay, great. So this is basically our script right here. But in order for us to test this script, unfortunately, we can't do this inside of Roblox Studio. We're going to have to publish this game to Roblox so that we can play it in the game so that we can be teleported to this next place. So what we're going to do is go on the top left, hit file, and we're going to hit publish to Roblox. And if this is your first time publishing it, just make sure that you create a new game and have it be published to Roblox, basically. So another thing we need to make sure is to go to our second game, like our second place, and also publish that as well. So we need to make sure that that is taken care of as well. All right, so we're in the second place, hit file, hit publish to Roblox, and that is essentially taken care of now. So what we can do now is go into the actual game and test this for ourselves. All right, so this is what my published game looks like. So I'm just going to hit play, and then once we join into the place, it's going to teleport us as soon as we join into the main game. All right, so I've now loaded into the main game after waiting for a bit. As you can see, the game has now teleported us to the second place that we specified. As soon as we joined into the main game, we've now been teleported to the second place. So it's basically working as expected. This is the basics of using teleport service to teleport players from one place to the next. So now that we know that teleporting works, another thing we can do is create our own loading screen or transition screen from one place to the next. So we saw that when we teleported, Roblox used their own default loading screen, but we can replace that with our own loading screen if we wanted to. And here's how it's going to work. So we're first going to create it in Starter GUI, so we're just going to hit the plus sign, and we're going to insert a screen GUI. We're going to call this Teleport GUI. And we're also going to check ignore GUI inset. So we're going to check this off. And what we're going to do is hit the plus sign, create a frame. We're going to surround the entire screen with this frame. So we're going to set the size of this to 1, 0, 1, 0, like this. And we're also going to change the background color to something dark, probably like around here. And we're also going to insert a text label inside of this frame. And we're going to move this text label down here. And we're also going to drag this out just a little bit so that we can see it nice and big. And we're also going to align this probably like somewhere down here. So we need to make sure that the size is also using scale instead of offset. So we're going to change these properties to 0. And we're going to make the scales probably like, let's say 0.2. And we're going to make this one 0.4 for the Y. Or not, we could just scale it like this now that we know that we're in the scale that we're in the scale, not the offset. Okay, so now that we have that taken care of, let's go down here. Let's scale the text like this. Let's change the text color to white. And we're going to change the text to loading ... just like this. And let's go back up and change the background color of this to something even darker than the frame's color. So it's going to look like this. And now we have a basic teleport loading screen GUI thing. Not the best thing, but it's something to work with. So now that we have this, we need a place to put this teleport GUI. For us to be able to access, to be able to set this GUI. So we're going to move teleport GUI into replicated storage. Now, the thing about this is we have our teleport GUI, but we need to be able to set our teleport GUI to this GUI in particular. And the way we're going to do that is by creating a local script and having teleport service set this GUI as the loading screen. So this can only be done on the client as well. So we need a place to put this local script so that we can access this teleport GUI. So we're going to open up Starter Player and we're going to make a local script inside of Starter Player scripts. So we're going to search up local script, insert this, and we're going to go back to our original script, copy this reference to teleport service, and we're going to insert it into here. So now what we're going to do is also make reference to the teleport GUI. So we're going to say local teleport GUI equals game.replicated storage, wait for child, open and close parentheses, teleport GUI like this. And so all it takes is just one simple method, and it's simply just teleport service set teleport GUI, open and close parentheses, and we're going to set it to the teleport GUI like this. So that is essentially it. So now we're going to hit save, we're going to hit publish, and I'm going to demonstrate what this looks like once we join into the game. All right, so I've joined into the game, and in a little bit, we should see that our new loading screen has showed up. Rather than Roblox's default loading screen, if you want to have a side-by-side comparison, we were able to see our loading screen versus Roblox's default one. So that's a simple way to add your own custom loading screen if you want to make it look more nice for your game. Okay, now there's something I want to add on to the GUI that you might think would be pretty helpful. So what you saw with that transition, it was only for like maybe a few seconds, and then we were able to instantly be teleported into the game. But what if we wanted to have a more smooth transition of, like, let's say a cutscene plays if the player teleports to this other game, or if you want to add more to the teleport GUI after they load into the game. Like, let's say there's a loading bar that shows up, and then it's going to show that there's a completion that happens, and then it transitions you over to whatever you want to do within the second game. That's just an example I'm going to throw out there, but essentially what we're doing is basically taking the GUI that's been sent over and use it however we want as soon as they load into the second game. So what we're going to do is insert a local script inside of Replicated first, because this is the first thing we want to happen once they teleport into the second game. So we're going to hit the local script. We're going to make reference to teleport service again. So teleport service equals game:get service, teleport service like this. And what we're going to do now is say teleport service get arriving teleport GUI. So this is what it looks like. And we're actually going to make a variable before it. So we're going to say local teleport GUI equals teleport service get arriving teleport GUI. And there's also another thing we need to make reference to, and that's going to be replicated first. So we're going to say local replicated first equals game get service replicated first. And let's first check to see if this teleport GUI is existent, because sometimes it might not be. So we're going to say if teleport GUI, then we're going to hit enter like this. And so what we're going to do now is essentially take the teleport GUI, put it inside of the player's player GUI, and then for a specific amount of time, we're just going to keep it there, and then we're going to destroy it. So we're first going to make reference to the player's player GUI. And since this is local, we can just say local player GUI equals game.players.localplayer.player GUI like this. And so another thing we need to do is remove the default loading screen as soon as we join into the game. So we're going to say replicated first remove default loading screen like that. And what we're now going to do is basically set the teleport GUI's parent to the player GUI. So we're going to say teleport GUI.parent equal to player GUI like that. And now what we're going to do is put a task.wait for maybe about 5 seconds. And then finally, we're going to destroy the teleport GUI like this. And so what should happen now is when we join into the second place, it's going to take the teleport GUI that was given to us, and we're going to put it inside of the player GUI for 5 more seconds, and then we're going to destroy the teleport GUI after that. So we're going to hit File, published to Roblox, and now let's test the game. All right, so I'm loaded into the main game. Let's wait for the loading screen. So the loading screen is here, but it's waiting an additional 5 seconds before it ends up destroying the loading screen so that we can see it better and have it do anything else that we want it to. I'm not going to show you complicated examples of this feature, but it's important to know and be aware that this is something you can do with loading screen GUIs and all that sort of stuff. So I hope this part has helped you. All right, the next thing I want to show you is teleport options. Now you might think, what the heck is teleport options? Essentially what this is that it gives us the ability to add more arguments to the teleport call that we have when we're sending players over from one place to the next. And so this allows us to specify things like, should the player be sent to a reserved server? Or what kind of data do we want to send over to the server that we are teleporting the player to? And just general things like that. It's an important thing to know about, and so that's what I'm going to be showing you how to do right now. So let's go back to our script, and what we need to do first, we need to create a teleport options instance so that we can pass that into this TeleportAsync function call that is going to give more arguments to the teleport when we teleport the player to the next place. So what we're going to do before the TeleportAsync call, we're going to drop 2 lines, and at the top, what we're going to do is say local teleport options equals instance.new, open and close parentheses. We're going to create teleport options like this. And so now that we have teleport options, we can add this as our third optional parameter here by putting in a comma and by specifying teleport options like this. And so now what can we do with these teleport options? One thing that we can do is specify if this should be a reserved server. So what we can do is drop a line down here and say teleport options dot should reserve server like this, and then we're going to set this equal to true. So what will essentially happen here is, as soon as the player joins into the game, then they will be teleported to a reserved server where if a new player decided to join into the game, they cannot join the same server as this player because the server that this player is in a reserved server. So if I were to publish this game and test it, then that is exactly what should happen. So that is basically what goes on with reserved servers. And this is how you say to Roblox that we want you to create a reserved server for this player and things like that. Another thing we can do with teleport options is sending data between these different places. So if you were to imagine that we're playing some sort of matchmaking system inside of the main game, that we want to send data over to the other place so that we know like the correct setup, the configurations and things like that. Like let's say we were playing a tower defense game. We would be specifying the difficulty that we'd be playing. We would be specifying how many waves there would be. We'd be specifying the map and how many players there are and just things like that. Simple data like that we transfer between one place to the next for basic configurations and those sorts of things. Then we can do that by sending data through teleport options with the TeleportAsync method. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a table full of data that we're going to be sending over to the other place. So what we're going to do is say local teleport data equals open and close hard brackets, and we're going to hit enter like this so that we can specify for each entry there's going to be a specific data for each one. So let's say we were playing a tower defense game. Then what we can do is say I don't know, we can specify difficulty, set that equal to, let's say, hard, and then we can say how many lives, I don't know, like 3. I don't really know how tower defense games go, so we can say lives, we can say the number of players, we can set this equal to, let's say, 2, and just things like that. Like data like this we can send over with TeleportAsync, and now that we have our teleport data, we need to specify the teleport data with teleport options. So we're going to drop 2 lines and we're going to say teleport options set teleport data, open and close parentheses, and then we're going to pass in teleport data like this. So now that we have this, we're going to be sending over this data over to the other place. But now we need to catch this data in our second place so that we can actually use it. So I'm going to show you what that looks like right now. But what we need to do is go to our second place now. So I'm going to see you over there. Okay, so I'm now in the second place. And in order to catch this data, we're going to create a script inside of server script service here. And what we're going to do is create a player added event. So we're going to say game.players.playerAdded connect function, open and close parentheses, player, pass that in like that. Now, here's how we access the data. So we need to first access what's called join data when the player joins into the game. And it has all sorts of information that we might find useful, but specifically what we need is the teleport data. So what we're going to do is say local join data equals player colon get join data, open and close parentheses like this. And now in order to specify the teleport data, what we're going to do is drop a line and say local teleport data equals join data dot teleport data like this. So now from this, we can basically access everything that we've created inside of teleport data. So we can say local difficulty equals teleport data dot difficulty. We can even say local just lives equals teleport data dot lives, and you kind of get the idea at this point. So we can basically just print these out by saying difficulty, concatenate this with difficulty, and then we can also print lives, which is set equal to lives like this. And so that is basically what's going to be printed out in the output once we test this out inside of the actual game. So what I'm going to do again is go to File, hit Publish. I'm also going to go to the main game, go to File, and then hit Publish. And so now let's go into the actual game and test this for ourselves. Alright, so I've joined into the game yet again. So after we wait for some time, then what's going to happen is it's going to teleport us to the next game. And let's actually open up the developer console so that I can show you that it works in the output. So I'm going to hit F9, go to server, and as you can see in the output, it printed out our difficulty being hard and our lives being 3. We were successfully able to send data from the main game into this game so that we can now use this for whatever we want to use for this place that we're now playing in. Okay, now you might ask, what kind of data should I send between these places versus if I were to use things like data stores to save data and then fetch them in this next place? To that I say, if you were to send data between servers or places, I would just send basic configurations or settings kind of data that you'd send over. So let's say if we were doing a matchmaking system in a horror game, we'd specify the number of players that have joined into the game, we'd specify the difficulty, we'd specify the map, and so we can basically configure this game to accommodate for what data we sent over and things like that. Because sending data over through teleport is more unsecure and it's easier to be exploited. So for things that need more security and things that need persistence between or across all places within the game, like things like leader stats, things like progression, I would recommend using data stores. And so I hope this part has cleared any confusion to you in order to decide what kind of data you want to send over through teleport service. And I hope this part has helped you. Okay, so now I want to explain the concept of PlaceId and JobId. So there's a difference between these two, and it's important to understand what makes them different. So going back to our diagram that we had over here with the game and the multiple places, we know what PlaceId is because that's basically how we were able to just go to one of these places and copy the ID to the clipboard so that we can specify which place we want to teleport the player to, and things like that. JobId is a little different, however. If we were to, let's say, create a public server inside of one of these places, then this server essentially has its own ID, and this is what's called the JobId. So the place has a PlaceId, but each individual server, if I were to have multiple servers, each individual server has its own JobId. And the reason it's important to know when to use JobId is so that you can specify, like, let's say if a player joins into the main game, then we want to have them teleport to a very specific server contained within one of these places that are currently active. And so if you know how to use JobId, then you know how to send players to a very specific server that's running. And that's what I'm going to be showing you how to do right now in this section. So going back to our script, as a basic example, what I'm going to do is add a piece of information in the teleport data that's going to be this current game's job ID. And so when we send that over to the second place, we can see that there is a difference between job IDs. So what we're going to do is drop a line down here in teleport data. We're going to say job ID equals game.jobID. And it's as simple as that. And so once we have that taken care of, what we're also going to do is print what this actual job ID is inside of the main game's output so that we know that there is a difference. So we're going to say print, open and close parentheses, game.jobID like this. And so once we have that taken care of, let's go into place 2. All right, so we're in place 2. We're going to drop a line down here and we're going to make the same print statement by saying game.jobID like this. And now what we're going to do is specify the job ID property, or the job ID data. So we're going to say local job ID equals TeleportData.jobID like that. So now what we're going to do is print previous place's job ID and then concatenate the job ID like this. And so now essentially what's going to happen is we're going to start from the main game. So the main game here is going to specify its job ID of the main game, and it's going to send that over to the second place. The second place is going to print its own job ID, and it's also going to print the job ID from the previous place, which is the main game. So now what we're going to do is hit publish on both of these games, and let's go and try this out. All right, so I'm loading into the main game, and very quickly when we go to the server, we can see this long string of text. That was the job ID of the main game's server. So now, if we hit on server in the second game, we can see at the top that this is our current game's job ID, which is this ID here. And as you can see, it printed the exact same job ID from the previous game into this one. So we can definitely see there's a difference between these two. And if we can capture the job ID of a specific server, that's how we know to send the player to a specific server. And now I'm going to show you what this looks like through a practical example. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to make it so that when, let's say one of my friends join into the server and they are inside of a different place in the same game, I want it so that if I hit follow on their profile, like if I go to their profile and follow them into the game, I want to be spawned into the same place that they're in, not the same game. Because by default, if you were to follow one of your friends into a Roblox game, then they would be sent to the main game rather than the actual place that they're in. And so in order for us to be able to know which server and which place they're in specifically, we're going to need to know their place ID and their job ID. And so that's what I'm going to be showing you how to do inside of this script, but it's mostly just going to be for testing and demonstration purposes. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go into the script, and the first thing we're going to do is actually comment out the reserve server check right here. The reserve server flag right here, because this will not work if your friend is inside of a reserved server. You cannot join a reserved server. And here's what we're going to do. At the very top, I'm going to specify if the player's name is equal to a very specific player, like my alt account. So I'm going to say Blastberg, then that's going to be the name of my alt account, and then I'm going to place all of this from here inside of here. Now, again, this is just for testing purposes, because what would normally happen is if I was inside of a game and I, let's say, was using a matchmaking system to have the player join a different game, then we're going to specify through that rather than this check that's happening here. But as of right now for this demonstration, I'm going to do this alt account check. And you can do this as well with your alt account if you want to try and play on multiple devices at the same time. But this is essentially what I'm going to do. So if, let's say I'm playing on my alt account, then it's going to teleport me to this new place. And if I'm not my alt account, like let's say I'm on my main Brawl Battle account, then I want to try and follow my alt account to the place that he's in specifically. And there's a property for this that we can check to see whether this is the case or not. And that's called follow user ID. So this is what it's going to look like. We're going to say local follow user ID equals player.follow user ID, like that. And we're first going to make a check by saying if follow user ID and follow user ID does not equal to 0, then, because essentially follow user ID is the thing that's passed to us if we follow a player specifically through their profile. And if it's not 0, so it actually is legitimate, then we're going to go down here and make that check for ourselves and continue with teleporting our player to the alt account. So now what we need to do is fetch the information of the player that we're trying to follow with the place ID and also the job ID. Now we can do this using a P call because this has the potential to fail. So that's why we need to be able to do that. So what we're going to do is say local success error message. And then there's going to be 3 other variables here. I'm going to explain what these are in just a little bit, but we're going to say current instance, place ID, and job ID. We're going to set this equal to pcall function open and close parentheses enter. And then what we're going to do is say return teleport service colon get player place instance async open close parentheses, and then we're going to pass in the follow user ID. So follow user ID. Now, the reason it's structured like this is because GetPlayerPlaceInstanceAsync returns a tuple. And if you remember what a tuple is, it's not the same thing as a table. It's basically multiple values paired together to have this be the return result as these 3 variables right here. Because as you know, the first 2 variables, success and error message, that's going to be passed back with pcall. But GetPlayerInstanceAsync is going to pass back 3 values that we need in order to know what place and what server this follow user ID person is in. I hope this part is making sense so far. If you need a recap on P calls, you can watch my DataStore's videos on that, but I hope that this part is making sense to you so far. So once we have the information of the place ID and the job ID, that's when we can teleport the player to the follow user ID's place and server. So what we're going to do is say if success, so if this was successful, then we're going to say teleport service colon teleport to place instance. So we're not using teleport async, we're specifically using teleport to player instance. We're going to put open and close parentheses. First thing we're going to do is specify the place ID. Second thing is specify the job ID. And then finally, we're going to specify the player we're teleporting. Now, keep in mind for this instance, we're just passing in one player and it's not a table of players. So we can just simply say player like that. And if this was not successful, then we're going to put a warning message for the error message like that. For the error message just like that. And this is essentially the script that we're going to be using to have our alt account join into the second place and then have Brawl Battle, like our main account, follow my alt account into that specific place. And so now I'm going to show you what this looks like in game. So I'm going to hit file, hit publish to Roblox, make sure you always do that. And now let me demonstrate this for you. All right, so here's what we have going on here. So I'm on my alt account right now, Blastberg, and I've currently been teleported to the second place in the game. So now what I'm going to do is go into the Roblox homepage and go to my alt account, and I'm going to join his game directly. So now what's going to happen is once I follow him into the game, it's going to look for the follow ID, and if it's valid, then it's going to teleport me to the specific place and server that my alt account is in, rather than just the lobby or the default place itself. So we're going to wait for that to load. Okay, and as you can see, as soon as I joined into the game, I automatically got teleported to the server or the place and the server that my alt account was in. And so this is how we can specify how we can teleport specific players to specific servers. Now, of course, there's other ways you can do it, but this is one way that I know is very practical to use inside of a Roblox game. And so I wanted to demonstrate this example right here. Now, again, if things have confused you up until this point, then I suggest you rewatching certain parts of the video that you think may have confused you. But this is a really good way to understand the difference between place ID and job ID, and how we can bring players into specific servers because of that. And I hope this part has made sense to you so far. Okay, and the last thing I want to show in this video is being able to handle failed teleports. Because the network can be bad for a lot of people depending on what device they play on and things like that, teleports can definitely fail a lot of the time. And we need to be able to make sure that if it fails once, then we need the server to keep trying to teleport the player until it is successful. And if we just have one call with teleport async, it's not exactly going to work. So what we need to do is have a module that basically allows us to safely teleport the player and have it constantly retry to make sure that the player is being teleported safely. And there is a really good module for this that's actually in the documentation. I will have a link to this in the description of this video. It's in the handling failed teleports section. And basically what we're going to do is copy this script and have it in a module so that I can show you how this works. And I'm going to step through what the script does and things like that. So with the handled failed teleport section, I'm going to hit copy this entire code. And we're going to go back to the main game. So what I'm going to do is go to replicated storage and I'm going to hit the plus sign and I'm going to insert a module script because this is essentially a module script that has a function that allows us to safely teleport the player to a game with the specified ID and everything like that. So I'm going to rename this to SafeTeleport and then I'm going to select everything and I'm going to hit Control V to paste the entire code like so. And so now what we're going to do is go to our main script. And what I'm going to do at the top here is require our module script. So we're going to say local safe teleport equals game.replicated storage colon wait for child open and close parentheses safe teleport. And I'm also going to wrap this around in a require call because we're trying to get a module script just like this. And so now what we can do instead of teleport async is that we can actually replace this with safe teleport like this. So we can specify the place ID, we can specify the amount of players inside of a table. So we can just say player like this, and then we can have our options with our teleport options like this. So it's basically the exact same thing as up here with teleport async, except we're using the safe teleport module instead of just having one teleport async call, because this will serve us way better than if we were to just call teleport async once. So now I want to go to the script and try and help you understand what is happening here with this entire script. So if we go at the very bottom, obviously this is a module script, and what this is returning is a function. And what is this function? This function is called SafeTeleport. And basically what's happening here is that if we go down to the script, we can see that we have an event called teleport and it failed. So this is within the event of a failed teleportation. And if this does happen, then what we're going to do is go and use this function, which is handle failed teleport. So there can be multitudes of reasons why a teleport has failed. Has the server been flooded? Was it just a simple failure? Then what we're going to do is have a little delay before we try and see if we can fix this. And once we do this, then we're going to call this safe teleport function with the parameters that we've specified here up to this main function right here with safe teleport. And so basically what's happening here is we have an attempt index, and then we have this loop structure going on here. So we have a p call that's basically going to use the same function we were trying to use with teleport async, but it's going to repeatedly do this over and over again. So it's going to add the attempt index by 1 every single time it attempts to do this. And if it was not successful, then we're going to wait for a retry. And then we're literally going to go back up here again, and we're going to try teleport async again to then have the attempt go up again. And then it's going to keep on doing this over and over again until either it has been successful or if the attempt index has reached its limit by 5, like if it tried it 5 different times. And so it's basically going to return the success and results of whether this was the case or not, or it's going to throw in an error of whether this did not work or not. And so that is essentially the safe teleport module that we are going to be using instead of just simply using teleport async. And I hope that this has made sense to you up until this point conceptually. Like, once again, if there's something you didn't understand, just rewatch this part, and I hope that this will click to you one day and you'll realize that, yeah, like all of these things do happen for a reason. And so that is what I wanted to demonstrate to you as a final part to this episode. Now, With everything that I've showed you up until this point, I want you to see if you can make this matchmaking system of basically having players step onto this pad, and whenever it reaches a certain threshold, like let's say 2 players, I want you to teleport all of these players within the pad to a specific server within a different place in the game. And I also want you to send data that you might find useful to use in this other game that you're going to be playing. Or you can try and apply this inside of your own game that you're currently working on. Because this is a really good practice if you want to make a matchmaking system or just have different places within the same game. So, and if you need help with this, you can join my Discord server. You can ask anybody inside of the community to help you with this sort of thing, because this entire learning process is a community effort, and also with the effort of what you put into to learn these things. And I want to encourage more of that. So that's basically going to be it for this episode. This has been one of my favorite episodes in this series so far because of how long it is and also how much information has been put inside of this video. So whatever you can do to help this series by either liking this video, commenting, or sharing it with anybody else you know, that would be very, very appreciative of you. And I think that's basically going to be it for this episode. If you're still confused about some of the concepts that I talked about in this video, especially with things like replicated first with loading screens, or things with P calls, like the DataStores video, I'm actually going to send you a link to the DataStores video, which I'm going to have for you right here to watch. So go ahead and watch that if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care.